Is a class on Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 26th Chapter, text number 34, given by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, recorded on January 11th, 1975, in Bombay, India.
The activities and characteristics of the ethereal element can be observed as the accommodation for the room for the external and internal existences of all living entities, namely the field of activities of the vital air, the senses, and the mind.
Bhutanam chidradatrityam bahirantameva cha pranendriyatma dhisnatyam navasu vritti lakshanam. Space, accommodating space, this is the function of the ether. So this is technical description. There is nothing very much philosophy, technical composition. So you can read the part.
The mind, the senses, and the vital force or living entity have forms, although they are not visible to the naked eye. Form rests in the subtle existence in the sky, and internally it is perceived as the veins within the body and the circulation of the vital air. Externally, there are invisible forms of sense objects. The production of the invisible sense objects is the external activity of the ethereal element, and the circulation of the vital air and blood is its internal activity. That subtle forms exist in the ether has been proven by modern science by the transmission of television, by which forms or photographs of one place are transmitted to another place by the action of the ethereal element. That is very nicely explained here. This verse is the potential basis of great scientific research work, where it explains how subtle forms are generated from the ethereal elements, what their characteristics and actions are, and how the tangible elements, namely air, fire, water, and earth, are manifested from the subtle form. Mental activities or psychological actions of thinking, feeling, and willing are also activities on the platform of ethereal existence. The statement in the Bhagavad Gita that the mental situation at the time of death is the basis of the next birth is also corroborated in this verse. Mental existence transforms into a tangible form as soon as there is an opportunity due to contamination or development of the gross elements from subtle forms.
So one important thing that the statement in the Bhagavad Gita that the mental situation at the time of death is the basis of the next birth is also corroborated in these verses. Jang jang bhapi smarana bhavam tajattanti kaleva. Generally, with our this material eyes, material senses, gross vision, we do not see how a person dying and is being transformed to another body. The gross material scientists, scholars, because they cannot see with the eyes, they do not believe that there is soul, and soul transmigrates from one body to another. Big scientists, big scholars, they do not believe. They think that life is nothing but a mixture of these material elements, and at a time the vitality is finished, therefore everything is finished. But that is not the fact. The fact is the gross body is finished, but the subtle body, mind, intelligence and ego, that remains with the soul. Na hannate hannamane sharir. They, just like in dream, we do not work with this gross body, but we work in dream with mind, intelligence and ego. We create another atmosphere, and in dream we see or we place ourselves in a different atmosphere, although the gross body is resting on the bed. So this we experience every night, that because the gross body stops working, it does not mean the soul stops working. The soul works with its mind, intelligence and ego. So when this body becomes incapable of working further, then the mind, intelligence and ego carries me to another body, means another process of formation of the body into the womb of the mother. And when the body is formed and in working capacity, even as a child or baby, then the body comes out and the living entities, another chapter of life begins. This is the process of transmigration of the soul. So, mind is the basic principle of another form of body. Therefore, our Krishna consciousness movement is training the mind how to remain Krishna conscious at the time of death. Because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Jang Jang Vapi Smarana Bhavam. Therefore, Bengali poetry, there is a saying, Bhajan karo, sadhan karo, motte janle hoy. Means, you are doing everything in spiritual life, that everything will be examined at the time of death. How you have practiced your bhajan sadhan, this will be examined at the time of death. If at the time of death you remember Krishna, that will be the examination. We are chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare, training the mind. So, at the time of death, if you think of Krishna, then your examination is passed. Jang Jang Vapi Smarana Bhavam. That Krishna Bhavam immediately will carry you to the Krishna lore. That is stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Janti Deva Brata Deva Pitrin Janti Pitri Brata Bhuteja Janti Bhutani Madhyajinopi Janti Mam. Madhyajina, Krishna says, those who are worshipping me, Jajan means worshipping. So, Krishna therefore advises, Manvana bhavamad bhakta mad jaji mang namaskuru. So, Krishna worship Madhyaji, worshipping Krishna. Krishna says, worship me. What is that? Mang namaskuru. If you simply come in this temple and offer little obeisances, dandavat, Danda. Danda means rod. Both means light. Just like one stick falls straight on the ground, similarly, if we fall straight before the deity, that is called dandavat, like the stick. Dandavat pranam. Prakishta rupe, no, namrata. Namrata is required. Jnani prayasam mudapasa namanta eva. Namanta. Be submissive. So this dandavat is the symbolic presentation of submission. And Krishna wants that. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam saranam braja. Submission. The bhakti process is simply submission. So madhyajinopi jantima. If you do not study, or if you have no education to study Vedic literatures, it's simply, the temple is installed for this purpose, that if somebody comes, simply offers his obeisances before the deity, before the spiritual master, simply by doing that, he will become perfect. Just like this children, a small child is offering obeisances, it may be said that they are imitating, but not all child imitates. There are many children. So they are fortunate children who comes here, offers obeisances, dances with kirtan. So these are not in vain. They are taken into account, and he also becomes developed in spiritual consciousness. Sarpamapi asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Mahato bhayat, bhaya or fearfulness is of our next life. That is bhaya. Everyone is afraid of dying. Why? There is fearfulness that after this body, after death, and nobody knows where he is going. That is bhaya. Everyone should be afraid of that. Suppose you are pushed somewhere, you do not know where you are going. So that is very dangerous. One must know where I am going. But they do not believe in the next life. Due to lack of knowledge, poor fund of knowledge, there is no question of disbelieving. It is quite logical, as Krishna says, tatha dehantaram prapti, dehinasmin yatha dehi, kaumara yauvanam jara. As you are changing body, everyone is changing, everyone knows. I was a child, then I became a baby, I became a boy, I became a young man, now I am an old man. So, this one after a change, one body after another, that is going on. Similarly, tatha dehantara prapti, after this body is finished, I must get another body. So I am transformed to one body to another by mind, intelligence and ego. That has to be trained. Mind. If you train up your mind where to go, we decide even in this life. We first of all decide in the mind where I shall go. We purchase ticket, we make arrangement. Similarly, the mind should be trained how to go back to home, back to God. This is called bhajan sadhana. To train up the mind. If the mind becomes disturbed at the time of death, then even Bharat Maharaj, such an exalted person, he became very much affectionate with a deer cab, and he had to take birth as a deer. Such an exalted person. So much advanced in spiritual life, but at the time, jang jang bhapi smarana bhavam, he was absorbed in the thought of the small deer whom he loved very much. So he had to take the body of a deer. So there is a chance. So how much careful we should be training our mind so that at the end of life we can think of Krishna. That is the Krishna consciousness movement. Training the mind to think of Krishna, the same thing. Manvana bhavamadva madhyaji mangal namaskuru. This should be trained. And that is also practical, we can understand, just like some air is passing before us and there is some good smell, rose smell. We can understand that there is carrying the flavor of this rose because it is passing through the rose garden. So you cannot see the mind or the air. It does not mean the subtle things are not there. Don't believe your eyes in that way. We have to know things as it is stated here. The space, the air, they are acting. Pranavayu. The yoga system is controlling the vayu, the air within the body. That is called pranayam. Pranam vayu control the pranavayu. So perfect yogi, they control the pranavayu in such a way that by their sweet will they can transfer themselves through the pranavayu in different planets. They can do that when they are fixed up that now I am completely able to transfer myself. So they can transfer to any planet, or if he wants, he can transfer himself to the spiritual world. That is the perfection. We have given this picture in our perfection of yoga. A yogi is transferring himself to another planet. So if you want to go to the planets of the demigods, they are trying to go to the moon planet, but by yoga system, you can transfer yourself to any planet by yoga practice perfection. Therefore we have written that book, Easy Journey to Other Planet. You can go to any other planet by Bhakti Yoga or the Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga, by practicing and becoming perfect, you can transfer to any planet yourself within this material world. But by Bhakti Yoga, you can transfer yourself immediately to the spiritual Vaikuntha Loka, Goloka Vrinda. Madhyajino pi janti mam. So the yoga system is meant for that purpose, that you practice yoga and when you are mature, you can select an auspicious time and transfer yourself to certain planet as you like. Janti deva brata deva. If you want to go to the demigod's planet, you can transfer there. And if you want to transfer yourself to Krishna Loka, madhyajino pi janti ma. That is the best way. Because here, even if you transfer yourself to the Brahmaloka, the topmost planet, where duration of life is millions and millions of years, you can transfer in that planet. But that is not very good bargain. Krishna says, Abrahma bhuvanalokan punaravatino. Even if you transfer yourself to the Brahmaloka, where the duration of life is very, very long, still you have to come back again. Hine punne puno martalokam visanti. So long your past balance is there, you can stay there. But after that you have to come back again in this material world. So, Shastra says, so if you have to prepare yourself, then why don't you prepare for going back to home, back to God? Jadgatyana nivartante tad dhamam paramam mama. Krishna said, if you go to the spiritual planet, Vaikuntha Loka, or Goloka Vrindavan, then you will haven't got to return. That is eternal. Takta deham punarjanmanaiti mameti. If you go to Krishna, then your complete success is mam upeta kaunteya dukkhanaya vasa satam napnuvanti mahatmanu samsiddhim paramangata. Samsiddhi, that is the highest perfection. Parama. Therefore, we should try, we should endeavor for that purpose. How to go back to home, back to Godhead. So simply you have to train your mind. Manmanabhava is the prescription. Mami vaisyashi, asamsa. Krishna says, by this practice, Mami vaisyashi, you will come to me. Asamsa, Krishna says, and there is no doubt about it. So why don't you do that? Train your mind always Krishna conscious. And the method is simple. You do not require much education or university degree. Nothing of this sort. Simply manvana bhavamad bhakta. You just become devotee of Krishna and always think of him. Where is the difficulty? You can walk on the street and remember Krishna. Is there any tax? No, the government will not ask you for any income tax, sales tax, that you are chanting Hare Krishna. They may do so. The time is time. They may say the Hare Krishna people must be taxed 3 times because they are chanting and doing nothing. The communist government will do that. So never mind, the tax will be sent by Krishna. You haven't got to bother. Still, Jogakhyamam Vahamam, Krishna says, you believe in Krishna, then every problem is solved. We have no problem if you simply follow Krishna's instructions. Krishna says, Tesam satadujuktanam Jogakhyamam Vahamam. Even the tax for chanting Hare Krishna, then Krishna will bring the money. We are getting that practically. So, you know the history, how this land was purchased. There is no money, but Krishna sent money and everything was done nicely. So there is no anxiety, provided we are purely Krishna conscious, without any other desire. Anna vilasita sunnam, jnana karmananamritam, anukullena krishnanushiranam, bhakti ruttama. No other desire. Simply, a desire will not come. Krishna is so strong and nice. As soon as you allow him to sit down within your heart. He is there already. Simply you have to see. Then the strength is already there. There is no need of acquiring external strength for acquiring Krishna. The simple thing is that you follow the instruction of Krishna. Manmana bhava mad bhakta madhyaji man namaskar. So this is very natural. This temple worship is meant for that purpose. Actually, when we see the deity, immediately our mind becomes Krishna conscious. At least we think of Krishna, here is Krishna. So that is manmana. Chanting also, chanting, that is Krishna mana, manmana. In this way you become bhakta. Regularly chanting, you become bhakta. Without becoming bhakta, nobody can chant. So manmana bhava mad bhakta madhyaji. And worship deity, he has come very kindly to accept your service. You just dress him, just bathe him, just decorate him with ornaments, with garland, with nice thing. So he is ready. Just like a child is ready to accept the service of the mother. The mother dresses the child nicely, and the child accepts. Krishna is so kind that you cannot capture Krishna in Virata Murti. You can capture Krishna in your capacity. So Krishna has agreed. So take this chance. Manmana bhava mad bhakta madhyaji. Worship him. Why you are denying? It is not difficult, not expensive at all. And in this way, if you follow the process, then your bhavam, your nature will be changed. You will become a complete devotee. So, at the time of death, if you can maintain this bhava, Krishna conscious bhava, the bhava is the perfection. Bhava is attained after so much practice of devotional service. Adu sadhya tato sadhu sangha tato bhajana kriya atha anartha nivittisya tato nishtha tato ruchi tatha shakti tato bhava. Ashakti, when there is ashakti, attraction. Attraction. Now, recently I received one letter. One boy who was engaged in worshipping the deity in our Hyderabad center, and he was transferred to Madras, so he became mad like he had come back. He could not stay there without serving. He has written me later. So that is bhava. He cannot stay without worshipping the deity. That stage comes. You have to simply adopt it. Tato bhava. Atha anartha nivittisya. Anartha. Anartha means we are accustomed to this material condition of life. So many anarthas. Just like there are so many people that are going to the cinema in the evening. But those who have attained bhava, this is anartha nivitti, is already done. He is not attracted anymore by the cinema. He is attracted, bhava, in the worship of the deity. That is called bhava. That bhava means prema. Only thinking of Krishna, serving Krishna, simply busy in Krishna's service, that is the perfection of life. And if we can maintain that bhava, that situation, mentality, then jang janga vismaran loki tadattanti kalavram, and at the time of death, if that bhava is maintained, that is samsiddhi paramangata. That is the highest perfection of life. This is Krishna consciousness practice, Krishna consciousness. We are trying we are not trying to give others, we are trying ourselves also. How to get that bhav. That is the perfection of life. So human life is meant for that purpose. Not to practice how to imitate barking like the dog. No, that is not human life. Human life is meant for acquiring this bhav. Buddha bhava samannita. In another place, in the Bhagavad Gita it is said, Buddha aham sarvasya prabhavamatta sarvam pravartate iti matya bhajante mam Buddha bhava samannita. Bhava samannita. Buddha, those who are actually learned, actually advanced, such persons, Buddha, bhava samannita, bhajante mam. That is perfection of life. So, take this opportunity, human life. Don't miss. You may be very proud of your intelligence, but this intelligence is not very good intelligence if you are devoid of Krishna consciousness. Then you are a mudha. If by your intelligence you learn how to surrender to Krishna and worship Him with bhava, that is real intelligence. Gunam janmanamante janaman mam prabhadha. And if you try to become intelligent, some tricks, material tricks, to get some money or cheat others, that is not very good intelligence. These cats and dogs, that they have also such intelligence. How to steal food from the room, the cat knows very well. So, that is not intelligence. That intelligence can be found in birds, beasts, everywhere. Real intelligence is how to regain your Krishna consciousness and be promoted to the stage of bhava, and at the time of death maintain that bhava, and then your life is successful. Taktadi ham punarjanma nahi. Thank you very much.